Well, thanks, Miri. In this week's Mom at the Movies, we meet a mother and father of a 4-year-old who leave the big city to live a simpler life, but they soon find out that farm living is much more than they bargained for. Here's a look at the new documentary, The Biggest Little Farm.
We wanted to believe that everything had a purpose. We had our plan. And nature had hers.
This feels overwhelming.
But even the pests have a role to play.
So tell me about your film, The Biggest Little Farm. It involves you and your life.
It chronicles an 8-year sort of journey where my wife and I left the big city and decided to start a regenerative farm, which is essentially like a farm that its whole goal is to reawaken the ecosystem and actually work alongside of it, which is a very idealistic way of thinking, but we're solving our agricultural problems by bringing biodiversity back to the farm. And so it's a very honest look at what happens when we open Pandora's box, in a way. And it was a rundown conventional lemon farm, so we had a lot of reawakening to do for the land.
Well, what inspired you? You're an Emmy Award-winning storyteller. It looks like you have the whole world in your hands in the big city. What sparked change in you?
Well, I think, I'd been doing a lot of wildlife work as a director and a cinematographer, and I think both my wife and I really wanted a meaningful and purposeful connection with nature, and that reconnection is most obviously found through cultivating it and in a way that you're growing food from it, you're dependent upon it. And we just had always thought farming would be something we would love to try, but never to the degree that we ended up launching into. Yeah.
Biggest surprise when you opened Pandora's box of becoming a farmer?
I think around year 5, we saw the return of all this wildlife that was now balancing out these epidemics of pests and disease. And for 75 years, we've lost that connection, that innovation where we're sort of working with the complexity of nature. And it sounds idealistic, but that's the way it was done, and we've lost that. And I think to see the return of the wildlife and to see it solving problems was so inspiring, and that's why I had to make the film. But it's not easy, and I think we show that in the film as well.
You guys don't give up with the help of a pig and a greasy rooster.
Yes, Greasy the rooster and Emma the pig. They sort of steal the show. And I go into some of the stories of the animals and the relationships they have with each other and with us. And, because you don't think about farmers actually really getting to care and love these animals as characters. And I wanted to make sure that was woven throughout the film. And I didn't mean for the 650-pound pig to steal the show, but she stole the show. So yeah, that's a story in the film.
And you're continuing your storytelling as a father with a children's book.
Yeah, so it started with me writing these stories about these animals. And so I did this book. It's a series of stories called The Biggest Little Farm, and the first one is about Emma the pig, and it's called Saving Emma the pig. Because when we first got her, she ended up having 17 babies and then got very sick. And so that sort of was the impetus that sort of got me thinking about telling these stories, but I hadn't thought about the larger story of our entire journey over 8 years until about 3 years ago.
And you have a 4-year-old now. What's the biggest delight in telling your story to your child and children through this book?
I love that he's able to see the purpose in everything in nature, that there is this 4.5 billion year evolution that has taken place where all these things are interconnected in a way that has so much meaning, and he understands the value of various pests, various predators, and various plants. The world becomes so deeply magical and infinitely interesting.
And your biggest delight in teaching adults through this documentary?
I think that we are a force of nature. We are a part of it.
And you can feel a part of the force of nature that is this film by seeing it this weekend. The Biggest Little Farm is now playing in theaters everywhere.